So as I sit here, I'm sitting back in a laid back format. I know we're doing this virtual, but I want you to have an experience as if we're in the room together. So feel free to ask me any questions that you desire. It may be in regards to nutrition, it may be in regards to my journey that you want to hear about, but just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so first of all, let me just share with you about my own personal journey on my path to nutrition. I actually always had a love for nutrition since I was 18. I was a former student of UWM back in the early 90s, but I left I left UWM to start a family. I married young at the age of 20, and my husband and I became parents of 10 children. My husband passed away of congestive heart failure, and I lost one of my children due to leukodystrophy. So during that journey, I learned so much about how food impacts health, but I didn't know that my personal experiences in life would drive my passion for nutrition. And at the time when my husband was alive, I was overweight by over 300 pounds. And since he passed away, I lost 170 pounds. And now I am not only a dietitian, but I am a person that had to walk out that journey and had to be my first client and had to help other people navigate how to eat to improve their health outcomes. And unfortunately, for some of my family members, I learned too late. So with my passion in nutrition, I take my losses and turn them into gains by helping other people save their lives by way of nutrition. And as Carrie stated, whenever I talk about nutrition, I always say health is wealth by way of nutrition. If you can eat your way into poor health outcomes, you can eat your way into improved health outcomes. That doesn't mean that we won't suffer from the diseases. That doesn't mean that cancer won't happen because you eat healthy or other diseases, but we can reduce our risk to those diseases by way of how we eat. So a little bit, I did give you a description about my testimony, and now I want to talk a little bit about my business. So now, I'm sorry, do anybody have any questions? Because I feel like I'm rambling on. Any questions so far? Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my business, which is called Perseverance Health and Wellness Coaching. And what I do in my business is I do corporate wellness programs, community wellness programs, and I do individual programs. In my community programs, I partner with organizations such as the American Cancer Society. I've worked with Susan G. Komen, River West Food Pantry, AHAC, which is a Milwaukee Area Health Education Center, where I teach community health persons how to teach or introduce nutrition and community programs to the community. And I also offer weight loss classes to the community as well through an organization called Walnut Way. So one of the first things that I'm going to introduce to you today is the psychological component in relation to food. Oftentimes, people can feel like food is just food, when actually food impacts nearly every area of our life. And when I talk about me being my first client, what that looked like was I was carrying a lot of heavy weight and baggage and bondage and negative experiences that influenced how I ate. And oftentimes people can be emotional eaters without even knowing that they're emotional eaters. Oftentimes people tend to beat themselves up because they cannot often figure out why I can't lose the 10 pounds or why am I always losing it and gaining it back. Oftentimes, when we talk about food, we're looking at it's the food, but what about what we need to deal with in our psychological areas of our life? Are we stressed? Are we eating out of boredom? Are we happy or unhappy? oftentimes when I talk about emotional eating, people often assume that I'm talking about negative emotion when it's not always negative. Sometimes we can eat out of the joy of a new marriage, just like we can eat out of the negative experience when a person that we love passed away. So emotions doesn't always mean that you're eating because you're sad. It can mean a variety of different things. So as I share some different topics about eating, you may find yourself in some of the examples that I give. And that's the goal, to provide you with information that will help you understand how food impacts all areas of your life. So as I talk about the psychological component, I want you to imagine yourself being my client at this moment. And if you were to come to me and you say, Bridgett, I would like to eat healthier, or I would like to shed 20 pounds. Every person that sits in front of me, I always ask them this key question: how bad do you want it? The reason why I ask that question is because I know, as a nutrition professional with experience in psychology, that on our way to reaching a goal, life still happens. You're still going to experience things that make you feel bad. You may still experience negative situations at work or in your home life. You may be dealing with taking care of a parent and a child. So many things influence our choices that we need to really understand what we're walking into when we say we want to make a change, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I'll give you a little glimpse of is, and again, we're talking about the psychological component before I start talking about the food, is let's say you have a desire to lose weight and you know that your regimen is going to require you to eat more food. And you have a cake in front of you, you have an orange in front of you, and your goals that you have in mind is telling you that you need to eat the orange. But emotional food triggers often trigger us to eat foods that cause us to feel better. It often can forget about a goal and looks at what it wants and what it wants right now. But here's where I want to show you that food is not the enemy, but how shifting your mindset can help you reach your goal. As I sit here, I'm tempted to eat the cake, but I know I need to eat the orange. It takes my mind to tell my hand to pick up the food choice. So that's telling me that I have control. But to get you to believe that you can do it and get past your feelings or your impulse and desire to eat the cake is what's going to get you to the place where you can successfully get to where you desire to be, if that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions based on what I just said? I feel like I'm rambling because I'm saying so much. So please feel free. Anytime you can interrupt me and say, hey, Bridgett, I got a question about that. Because I really want to take this time to really help people understand, again, the concept that food is not just food. Food is, let's just take a look at all the different things that we do with food. When we are in celebration mode, we're eating. When we are in a mood of somebody graduates, we're eating. When we're talking about traveling, oftentimes we imagine, oh, I'm going to eat at this place. I'm going to try the most amazing restaurants, things that I never tried before. It usually always goes back to food. But what if you're traveling and you got a weight loss goal? How would you navigate that? If you gave into all of the emotions or the desires that you have, you will miss your moment to reach your goal. So there is a way to strategize and live your life and enjoy things that taste good but keep balance. So now, as I talked about the psychological component, which we can get back to at any portion when you get ready to ask questions, I'm going to segue into what is healthy food anyway? Well, I want to start with the difference between what a diet is and what health is. Oftentimes, people look at a diet as it's a moment of sacrifice, and it is. But let's talk about what that picture looks like when we say we're on a diet. Usually when we say we're on a diet, we're mentally focused on it. We see food as the enemy. We always point out our bad habits. Things seem like you're just doing this temporarily. That you start to identify things that you don't like about yourself. Oftentimes people focus on the scale and the finish line, right? And I'm talking about the perspective of a dieter. But let's talk about health. What is our focus when we look at our overall health? We're mentally focused on food as fuel instead of food as enemy. We're able to identify how to make good habits and keep them long term. Things that you'll be doing for the rest of your life is not temporary. Whenever I deal with my clients or corporate or community programs, it's never for people to do things short term. It's for people to change their eating behaviors as in relation to a lifestyle so that you can be at reduced risk of disease, so that you can keep your weight balanced. And if I just stop and talk about the focus of weight, when we're at an increased weight, we're at more risk of disease. So we increase our likelihood of developing cancers, diabetes, all types of negative health outcomes in relation to what our weight is. So we do want to look at it from a healthy perspective versus a diet. And then we focus on daily choices. How can I have some of the things I want sometime, but most time having the things that I need? And when we look at it from a health perspective, we're not looking at it as a finish line, but we understand it's a lifelong journey, which is why it is so important to see yourself in a healthy mode versus looking at your situation as being a dieter. So I just talked about the difference between diet and health. And I'm going to bring it back to my own personal story. I was a yo-yo dieter for years before I reached the goal of 170 pounds weight loss. I had lost 60 to 80 pounds, probably at least 4 or 5 times throughout my lifetime, if not more. But the one thing that I identified about myself is I couldn't understand why I was always back in the same position. I knew how to eat. I have a natural gift of nutrition before I even stepped into Mount Mary University to become a dietitian. But the one thing I could not overcome is, why did I always end up back in the same place? Now, you may not be a person that needs to lose weight, but you may be a person that's just seeking healthier habits. And to prove that, you joined this session to learn more about me and nutrition. So I'm sure you're tuning in for a reason. But as a yo-yo dieter, I had set myself up for failure because I always focused on food, and it became a love-hate relationship. It became, man, I can't have what I want. I want to eat that. So I would take a few meals, eat a bunch of salads, and then the weekend I would spaz out on things that I call myself really liking, like cookies and ice creams and things of that nature. But all I was doing was sabotaging all of that work that I did with eating salads, eating fresh fruits and vegetables through the week, but going right back to eating junk food. And that's because I saw it from a dieter's perspective and not a health perspective. So now that I've reached a place in my life where I successfully lost 170 pounds, approximately, because I lost count, and keeping it off, it's because I look at it from a perspective of health. And it's so important for me because I am a widowed mother of 9 children. It's not just about pounds for me. It's about being alive, being accessible to my children, having energy so that I can make an impact when I engage with them, being an example of what I teach when I stand in front of community organizations or when I sit before you. It's difficult to hear me if I'm not exemplifying the information that I give to you. At least it is for me. I have difficulty listening to doctors and people in the health field that are a representation of the exact opposite of what they tell me to do. That's just me. And there are other people that may be like that, but maybe they don't verbalize it, but I do. I have to live the things that I teach. So now let's talk about some of the foods that I struggle with and the concept about how food really impacts not only your weight, but your health. I got this set up. Can you give me a fuller screen? Is that right?
I'm sure it does. That help?
It helps a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how.
So I got this set up and I hope you all can see it. I think I'm gonna try to scan so that you can get a glimpse of the information that I'm about to give you. Now, here I have a liter of soda, and we're gonna talk about sugar and different things that impact your health. Right now, I'm gonna talk about sugar. Sugar, if we consume too much of it, it can lead to excess weight and increased likelihood of developing disease. And a piece of information that a lot of people are not aware of is that it's recommended for women to only have 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day and men 9 teaspoons of added sugar a day. However, if you're a soda drinker, let's just take beverages first. If you drink a liter of soda, you get 29 teaspoons in this liter, which is equivalent to all of these cups that I broke down into 1 teaspoon servings. This is actually a picture of what you're putting in your body. That's all out of the soda. So this has nothing to do with the foods that you eat, the cakes, the cookies, the ice cream. All of these things leave us at risk of disease. Mindlessly, we're unaware. So if I was to tell you that you should only have 6 teaspoons of sugar in a day, but just in one beverage, you had 29 teaspoons, imagine how that is impacting your health. Imagine what that is doing to your bloodline. Imagine how that's aging your body more quickly and having such a negative impact on your overall wealth and health. So yes, I can stay here and talk about weight and how that adds to disease. But what if this is just your daily habit and you're slowly killing yourself from day to day? My love for people, my passion for nutrition is why I like to show full-blown demonstrations. Another example would be, okay, so here's some orange juice. Sometimes people drink orange juice fresh. Orange, this is 100% juice. No added sugar, but it's juice. Oftentimes we think, well, that's okay. I can have my glass of orange juice every day. Keep in mind, it's 100% made out of fruit. Probably takes about a good 4 to 6 oranges to create this. When you can eat 1 orange and get the benefit of having the taste of orange, get more full, but this you're getting 9 teaspoons of sugar. So if you would swap out the orange juice and just eat a natural orange, think about that would improve your health drastically just by you making that change. And one thing I'm big on is I'm big on doing demonstrations to point out things that are in marketing that would make people feel like they're making healthier options, but in all actuality, they're not healthier options, they're just perceived healthier options that keep people in the cycle of being on a road to sickness unaware. Another example I have here is naked juice. Oftentimes I have clients come to me and they say, I drink these every day. This is the smoothie that I have. But this actually has, and I wrote it down to just keep track, it has 16 teaspoons of sugar in it. Keeping in mind, for a woman, 6 teaspoons added sugar a day, for a man, 9 teaspoons. You're getting 16 teaspoons in this. So these are just examples of things that I see people struggle with. And you may say, well, Bridgett, okay, you talk to me about the soda, you talk to me about the juice. What can I have? You're making it seem like I can't have anything. There are options. There are options of making, instead of drinking juice, making fruit infused water, where you can take water and ice, cut up your favorite fruits, chop it up, and make an amazing, pretty beverage without having all of that added sugar. And you can stay on track to having the daily intake that's recommended to help improve your outcomes. Or drinking things like tea, unsweetened, adding your own flavorings that doesn't have to be added sugar, but you may add lemon or different other tastes that you like without adding excess sugar. Now, I have seen cases where you will say, well, I'll just get the diet version. I'll get the one that says it has no sugar. Okay, let's talk about that. What did we swap out? We took the sugar out, the real sugar out, but then we put sugar substitutes in. Oftentimes those sugar substitutes that are in diet beverages or zero beverages where it's advertised as no sugar has ingredients like aspartame or other sugar substitutes that may lead to more risk of diseases such as cancer. So over time, you might not see a change in your health. Over time, you can see change in your health. You may not recognize it initially, but it can lead up to disturbing your health long term. So that's the reason why me, as a nutrition professional, don't promote drinking diet beverages. And if you do, having them consumed in moderation would be a better alternative, but just to make it a daily habit would be something that I would not recommend. Is there any questions so far? You guys gonna make my time go by a little fast without the questions, but that's okay because I have so much more information to share with you. Now, sometimes people can have a habit of drinking sodas excess. So it can be very difficult to come off of that habit when that's been something that you've been doing for years. So a recommendation that I would have is to slowly reduce your intake. Let's say, for example, if you drink sodas every day, reduce the intake to maybe like 2 times a week. Just teaching yourself how to gradually come off of something that you've been having a habit with for a long time. There's ways that you can wean yourself off of things and help improve your health outcomes until you get to a place where you can actually sustain that for the rest of your life. And also encouraging you to drink your water, staying connected with your doctor, making sure that you are on a path to better health. And if your doctor is not providing that information, staying connected or learning how to engage with a dietitian would be the way to start. So oftentimes with different programs, especially with my individual consultation, I actually do grocery store tours. And in those grocery store tours, I go to different aisles and I ask my clients, which one do they think is healthier? Okay, so here, oftentimes people like to eat crackers. And if you're on a healthy regimen, you might say, hey, Bridgett, I found these plant-based snacks. These seem like they are so perfect for me to eat. And I really like Ritz crackers, but then I started buying these. Well, when I show my clients or programs how to read nutrition labels, I point out to them that these are actually the exact same thing. They have, actually the Ritz crackers have maybe 10 more calories, but they have almost the exact amount of sodium. One has 125 and one has 130. We can talk about sodium soon. and the exact same amount of carbohydrates. So when I say carbohydrates, I'm saying sugar. Carbohydrates turn into sugar, sugar turns into fat. So when you have too much sugar, that's where the excess weight can be gained if you don't burn that extra energy off. So whenever you are learning how to strategize and change your eating behaviors, it's very important that you learn how to read nutrition labels. Nutrition labels are found on the boxes or the beverages that you choose. So please learn how to read nutrition labels. I often have my clients focus on the carbohydrates and the sodium, and I'll begin to talk about that in a moment. Another thing that I wanted to point out to you is things like granola bars and these breakfast soft baked. Sometimes these called a healthy breakfast snack or treat versus Snickers. Marketing would tell you that this is healthier, but this is the exact same thing. The Snicker has maybe 50 more calories, but they both have 32 grams of carbohydrates, which is sugar. So when I tell you that 6 teaspoons of sugar, remind you that only 6 teaspoons of sugar is the recommendation. It's about 6 teaspoons of sugar in one of these. So this is just to teach you that whether it's a Snicker or whether it's a Velveeta soft bake, it's the exact same thing. You're going to get the exact same results. So those are things that I like to share when I'm teaching things about nutrition. So as I talk to you about nutrition and I engage you with the different options that are available, another thing that I want you to understand is a calorie is not just a calorie. Oftentimes on nutrition programs, people say, I'm eating 1,200 calories a day. But what makes that calorie? Whenever I teach about nutrition, I encourage the people that I teach to look at the carbohydrates and look at the sodium, because those two things have the most major impact on health. Let's talk about salt for a moment. If you look at this small flask, it's 1 teaspoon of sodium. If we have too much sodium in our diet, we are at risk for heart disease, again, cancers, diabetes. It can lead to heart attacks, all of those things. Recommendations is for daily intake of sodium is 2,300 milligrams. This is 2,300 milligrams, 1 teaspoon of salt. So imagine how much sodium we are getting throughout the day when we are eating fast food or when we are adding extra salt to our meals. We are increasing our risk to disease over things that are simple. And it took me time to digest that even as a nutrition professional. This 1 teaspoon of salt is the daily recommendation. So we find salt in cheese, we find salt in various meats that's processed. All of these things are destroying our health. All of these things are deteriorating us daily. So again, nutrition is my passion because as I teach it, my goal is to save lives. My goal is to encourage you to take on the strategies to be there for your family, for yourself. Investing in yourself is a self-investment. Understanding what your triggers are. Identifying what are the psychological issues that influence your eating behaviors. So, again, I want to ask if anybody have any questions before I even go further.
I do have a question. How long?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to know more about when working with your clients, how long normally do you work with them? What's the time span? I guess that probably would depend on their goals. And then if you could go, I don't know if you planned on, but just digging a little bit deeper into if someone comes to you individually, how do you work with them in terms of when it comes to nutrition?
Okay, and that's a great question. What's your name?
My name is Tiffany.
Oh, Okay, nice to meet you, Tiffany. So
You as well.
what I have different packages on my website, and if you can write this down, my website is called perseverewellness.com. So you will see the different packages that I offer. But what I do in an individual relationship is usually I have a 5-week nutrition boot camp. And in that nutrition boot camp, or I'm sorry, 6 weeks, I meet with those clients every week, once a week. I teach them all the strategies. I do grocery store tours. I do a one-on-one cooking demonstration with them. I take them to the restaurant, teach them how to have a healthy experience in a restaurant, teaching them how to live a well-balanced life by way of nutrition. That way, if I teach you the overall components of what food does to you, or how you can lose weight, or whatever your goal is, that sets you up for success. So my goal is not to just say, hey, look at all these foods you need to eat. You need to eat fruits, vegetables. Yeah, you do need to eat that. But how can that be an enjoyable experience for me? How can I learn that I don't just have to eat tuna and salads all day, but I can actually tap into some foods that really taste good and make me feel great? And I want to say to you that I love working with women. I have male clients, but my thing is women, because women are the heart of the household. They set the tone of how that family eats. They set the tone of the food choices because they usually do the grocery shopping. I know men do it too. But we as women wear a lot of hats and we usually navigate that process. So if I get that wanted to be healthy, I'm automatically influencing that child's future or whoever that woman is connected with. So to answer your question, I do all of my individual sessions are individualized. There's not a cookie cutter approach in my program. So let's say, for example, you're a vegan, then I'll teach you in relation to that. But I can't teach you based on how I eat. I tailor it based on your lifestyle. So that's how it looks. So if you go onto my website and you desire to have my services, you can go on to perseverewellness.com and see what I offer and what I do. I hope I answered that question. Did I?
Yeah, I just want to say, when I try to go to the website, though, it's not coming up. But someone did put a website in the chat here that's different, and it looks like that comes up.
Okay, so what may make the difference is the spelling, because if you spell perseverance, it's going to give you the wrong name. It's called perseverewellness.com. So if you put the spelling in there wrong, it can come up wrong.
What about this other website, BridgettWilder.net?
Yeah, that BridgettWilder.net is more about motivational speaking thing. That's a separate entity, but perseverewellness.com, that's my weight loss. It has my prices. Yep, got it. Okay.
Thank you. Someone put it in the chat. Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, got it. Anybody else have any questions? So another thing that I would like to encourage you all to do is keep in mind the importance of self-care. When I say health is wealth by way of nutrition, that's one component that I do when I work with people. But my goal is to always get people to understand the value and the investment that it takes to eat right. Because what ends up happening is when I was heavier, I ate like I felt about myself. I ate fast foods on a regular basis. I didn't take the time to understand how that impacted my health. That affected my mood. That affected how I felt when I showed up in different business relations, or I didn't have a business yet. But when I showed up, I just didn't have the energy or the zest that is in connection with a healthy life. But now when I show up and I know that I put the things in my body that I need to have, and that I treat myself from the perspective that I am worth it, it's a different focus point. So when you invest in your health, you're investing in wealth in ways that's immeasurable. It's not just about a pound on a scale, but it's about a pound of value that you add on your life in every area, if that makes sense. So when I made the changes nutritionally, it gave me a perspective that I can do anything. If I can lose 170 pounds and that's under self-control and diet and exercise, there's nothing that I can't achieve because of the sacrifice that comes along with the changes that I wanted to make. Okay, so getting back into the discussion of how, one of the things that Carrie wanted me to talk about was eating during the holiday season. How do I navigate that? We're going to be cooking all these amazing foods. I'm going to be going to all these amazing places. My answer to that as a dietitian is enjoy it. Enjoy that moment, but don't take that moment into 2 weeks. When you cook your Thanksgiving meal, be mindful of the selection that you make for leftovers. For example, day one. Usually people average weight gain during the holiday season is about 10 pounds. Here's why. One of the reasons why, I won't say it's all, is because we get stuck in the leftovers. We don't let Thanksgiving Day be a moment. We let Thanksgiving Day be a week. So we eating the leftover dressing, turkey, whatever you prepare, your favorite things, there's an amount of excess that's there. And then people want to catapult into that New Year's weight loss when only thing you're taking off is the 10 pounds that you gained during the holiday season. So my goal would be to help you understand how you can eat healthy. We're going to go over that, or not necessarily healthy, eat what you want during the holidays, but not put on those extra pounds. And this is how that picture looks like. Say you have your plate, you gather all your favorite foods for Thanksgiving, simply skip the seconds. Or freeze some things for a later date. Don't let it be an ongoing ritual for the next 2 weeks, because if we look at, it started really at Halloween, let's be clear, because the candy was accessible. And usually after Halloween in the candy mode, then we're in the mode for preparing for Thanksgiving and all the things that come with that. And then we're going into the Christmas season. So it's a reason why people gain 10 to 15 pounds during the holiday season. And, eating more of the vegetables that's offered during the holiday season, if you're a heavy vegetable cooker. Portion control is something that I'm going to talk to you all about in this segment as well. But really setting yourself up to say, okay, I may not lose during the holiday season, but I don't want to gain. So again, doubling up on your vegetables, portion control, and not going excessively and over an abundance in leftovers. So as I segue into portion control, here's an area where a lot of people miss when they're trying to eat healthier. Now, say you have a setup where you want to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, and you want to eat your turkey and fish and all these things that we consider healthy. Portion control is where people get lost. A serving size of grapes, if you all can see this, can you all see this? It's this big, about 17 grapes. So if you're on a healthy routine and you get a big, massive bowl of grapes, you're sabotaging your goals into something healthy. So sometimes it's in how much you eat, not what you're eating. So those are also things that I cover when I'm helping people navigate weight loss, or when I'm teaching programs to teach people how to balance their plate. And I provide tools like having half of your plate being vegetables, a quarter of your plate being like a pasta or a bread choice, understanding that that's just a quarter of your plate, a quarter of your plate, your meat product. And then here I will put some fruit. So this is a way and a strategy for you to stay in the range of a goal that you're trying to make nutritionally. So these are just some tips that I'm giving you and providing so that you can understand how to navigate that. Does somebody have a question?
Bridget, it's Carrie. I have 2 questions in the chat right now.
Yes, ma'am. Let's have it.
I have someone asking, what are some ways to stay focused on a weight loss goal? I need to change my habits, but sometimes lose focus on the goal. I'm open to ideas. Thank you.
Sure. That's a great question. And that is a question that I get in every encounter with a client. Again, getting in tune with what is your why for your weight loss. and understanding that is going to be a process. It's going to take you to be committed. And there are two types of people that lose weight. There are people that lose weight and keep it off, and there are people that lose weight and end up in a cycle. So if you don't, and when I say cycle, I mean revisiting that same pattern of regaining the weight that they lost. So what ends up happening is losing the weight is easier than keeping it off. That's why the strategy is understanding what your triggers are. Let me give you an example. I teach a class called Decluttering Your Cabinets for Weight Loss Success. Oftentimes people think that I'm going to tell them to remove everything that's bad out of your house, the cookies, the ice cream, all of that stuff. What I'm really saying is decluttering things out of your life that would sabotage you. Who is your supportive team person? Who is the person that you have to push out because they keep bringing you foods that you don't need? Who is the person that's pushing you along on your journey? Remembering your why and sticking to that against all odds. And the reason why I call my business perseverance is because it takes perseverance to get to that end goal. It takes understanding that challenges in life still happens on your journey. So to answer your question, identify what your why is for your weight loss. Answer the question, how bad do you want it? And do whatever it takes to get there. Get yourself a workout regimen if you can exercise and it's cleared by your doctor. Get yourself a nutrition professional or however you feel that you best learn it and follow through with it daily. And if you happen to have a moment where you ate something that wasn't on the plan, don't stay off the boat. Don't get back on. That was just a moment in time. Things happen. Don't beat yourself up. And what that looks like is oftentimes, let's say, for example, I decided I want a cheesecake. If I was to say, oh, shoot, I ate the cheesecake, I might as well eat whatever I want for the rest of the day. That's the wrong way to treat a weight loss journey. But if I so happen to eat a piece of cheesecake, I say, okay, I ate a piece of cheesecake. The rest of my day is going to be fantastic. I'm going to make sure that I'm portioning out my food. I'm going to follow the plan and I'm going to stick to it. And that's my way of sharing with you some tips. Identify your why. Ask yourself how bad do you want it, and then you tell yourself to go get that, and then you make the adjustments in your life to make that happen. Does that answer your question?
I think that was a good response. Oh, she says yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question from Mary Kosh. She says, I feel that I eat too fast. Do you have some suggestions for slowing eating? I think I would eat less if I slowed down.
And you know, that is directly true. And the reason why I say that's true is because when we eat so fast, we're not giving ourselves the time to enjoy the food. And when we enjoy the food, that impacts how full we eat and how satisfied we feel. So when we're eating quickly, our mind hasn't even had time to adapt to the fact that we're eating. So a tip to slow down your eating is allow yourself to eat in a space where there's no distractions, meaning not eating in front of a television, allowing yourself a quiet space to just fully enjoy your meal. Make your meal presentable and make it look good to you, and just enjoy it as that moment of investing in yourself. It's important. So, you know, sometimes we are rushed to eat at times, depending on the situation. Sometimes you have a short lunch at work. Sometimes you got something quick, especially in this time frame in life where we're moving so fast. But it's almost like taking the time to smell the roses concept. Take the time to just enjoy your food and give yourself a space where you can just enjoy it. That's my best tip for that, if that makes sense. And one thing I do like to add about myself, I can get so hyped up when I'm talking about nutrition that I can be all over the place. So if I give you a takeaway for this session, what I want you to recognize is this. Remember what I said earlier, health is wealth by way of nutrition. The wealth is you. The health is in your hand. You don't have to give control to a healthcare team to do something that you can do in your own house. Now they can support you along your journey, but you are the driver of that ship. You are the one that chooses the foods that you eat. So that means that you have the driving seat on what your health picture looks like. And if you're in your 20s, you're going to be 40 one day. So as you navigate that time between 20 and 40, what you do at 20, your 40-year-old self will be thankful for it. And that makes all the difference in where your health will be in 20 years. And keep in mind, it's never too late. I didn't perfect my weight loss journey until I was 45 years old, because I had enough of the cycle. But I used to be a diabetic. I'm no longer classified as one. And I'm not saying that that's everybody's story, but I caught it early enough for me to reverse my health outcomes. Having birthed 10 children and sitting in a place of health and ability to run 10 miles as a 47-year-old woman, I took it into my own hands. And I encourage you all to do so. And if I can do it as a woman who went back to school later in life, had major losses, can lose 170 pounds, I leave room for no excuses. And that's one thing that I love about assisting other people, is sharing my journey. Any more questions?
I'm not seeing any questions come up, Bridgett, but I just want to say thank you again.
Absolutely.
Pointers. I know I ate way too much sugar after seeing that visual. I think you gave us all some good food for thought as we move into the holidays. So
Yes.
thank you so much for coming to present today. I thank everyone who joined us for this call. And
Yes.
we're so happy to have you here, and we look forward to doing more in the future, and we hope to see you all there. So as we say today, I wish you all a very safe, healthy, and happy holiday season. And Bridgett, do you have any parting words for all of us?
All I want to say is just thank you. Thank you for allowing me to pardon to you today. Mount Mary is family for me. And I just want to say, as women, all of the gifts that we share to help strengthen one another, I'll leave you with this: iron sharpens iron. So let's sharpen one another today. God bless.